Coming up today, the UN Security Council is weighing a response to North Korea's back-to-back attempts to test-fire ballistic missiles on Thursday. Both launches failed. Kim Jong-un will be looking to cement his authority over North Korea a week from now when the country convenes a rare party congress. But what does the event mean for ordinary North Koreans? We have a special report. Plus, South Korea's industrial output rises for the second month in March on the back of greater activity in the construction and service sectors. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Friday, the 29th of April. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this afternoon, the UN Security Council has warned North Korea to expect a strong response after it tried to launch not just one, but two intermediate-range ballistic missiles on Thursday. The launch attempts came in defiance of the Council's repeated warnings and punishments. Connie Kim starts us off.
The UN Security Council is holding an emergency meeting to discuss response measures to North Korea's latest ballistic missile launches. The Council is expected to adopt a statement condemning Pyongyang as Security Council resolutions ban North Korea from any kind of launch using ballistic missile technology. Members of the Council adopted a statement earlier this month when the North fired its first Musudan ballistic missile and a submarine-launched ballistic missile. The UN had warned of strong response measures if there was another provocation. North Korea attempted to launch two more Musudan missiles on Thursday, but failed as both crashed or blew up shortly after taking flight. The Musudan missile is viewed as a threat to the U.S. as it has a range of 3,000 to 4,000 kilometers, putting the U.S. territory of Guam within its reach. South Korean military sources say Pyongyang launched the missiles in an attempt to secure Kim Jong-un's power base ahead of the Workers' Party Congress next week, the first in 36 years. However, as the launch failures have revealed that the North's missile system has some serious flaws, experts say the regime could forge ahead with a fifth nuclear test before the Congress to make up for its failure. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
North Korea is tightening its grip on its people ahead of a rare ruling Workers' Party Congress slated for next Friday. The regime has restricted travel around the country and imposed a curfew, among other measures. Park Ji-won has the details.
North Korea is reportedly tightening its control over its people as its Workers' Party Congress on May 6 draws near. North Korea has put the country under a heightened state of alert for the 70-day period leading up to the Congress, but it has been intensifying the measures in recent days. Seoul-based Yonhap news agency reported Friday, citing unnamed sources, that the regime has barred entry and exit to and from the capital city of Pyongyang and along the north's border areas with China. The North Korean authorities has also stopped issuing travel permits for the rest of the country. The permits are required for all citizens wanting to travel to other provinces for personal reasons or business trips. If caught traveling without a document, citizens are sent to a work camp for a few months. According to the Yonhap report, the North's control over its people has reached a point where it's impeding people's ability to work. The authorities are reportedly making daily surprise visits to people's homes or arbitrarily stopping cars and people on the streets for questioning. The regime has also imposed a curfew of 10 p.m. The regime has also ordered citizens to delay personal or family matters like weddings or funerals until after the party congress is over. Some experts view the measures as a way for the regime to prevent defections or crimes before and during the party congress, the first in 36 years. The regime usually imposes special controls on its people during major national holidays such as New Year's Day, the birthdays of former leaders Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, the day of the regime's foundation on September 9th, and the day of the party's foundation on October 10th. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
A senior U.S. official has hailed the strength of Washington's alliances with South Korea and Japan and stressed that Seoul needs no nuclear weapons of its own, as the U.S. has, quote, They're back with the nuclear umbrella. US Deputy Secretary of State Tony Blinken's remark was seen as dismissing claims by Republican presidential frontrunner Donald Trump that US allies should pay more for US defense support or should defend themselves. Blinken said South Korea and Japan are contributing significantly to the support of American troops stationed in the respective countries. The official also noted that Washington and Seoul have begun formal consultations on the potential deployment of the Terminal High-Altitude Area Defense, or THAAD, missile defense system to South Korea to better deal with North Korea's nuclear and missile threats. Now, could the South Korean economy finally be finding its feet after months in the doldrums? It's too early to say, really, but new data shows the country's overall industrial output rose for the second straight month in March. Hwang Jie with the details.
Statistics Korea says Korea's industrial output rose 0.6% in March from the previous month. The output across all industries dropped in January this year, but rebounded the next month. Despite a drop in production in the mining and manufacturing sector, the overall output rise last month came on the back of robust activity in the construction and service sectors. Output in the mining and manufacturing sector was down 2.2% from a month earlier, while construction output rose 7.3%. But it's not all good news, as the rise in the construction sector was mainly driven by state-run projects that swelled investment in social overhead capital as the government front-loaded its budget in the first quarter. Service sector output rose 0.8% in March from the previous month. Retail sales also went up 4.2% on strong car sales that were boosted by a resumed consumption tax cut on automobiles. And although confidence among Korean manufacturers over economic conditions is improving, the index is still below the benchmark 100, which means pessimists outnumber optimists. The Bank of Korea says the business sentiment index for April came in at 71, up from 68 tallied a month earlier. Hwang Jie, Arirang News.
Now, China's central bank has strengthened its currency by the most since July 2005 in response to an overnight tumble in the value of the greenback. The reference rate was raised by 0.56% to 6.4589 yuan per dollar. Now, this is the largest rate of increase since the Chinese currency was depegged from the dollar nearly 11 years ago. It comes after the dollar sank 1% and the Japanese yen surged, with the Bank of Japan's unexpected decision Thursday to keep its monetary policy unchanged. According to analysts, this is a reaction to the dollar weakness overnight and does not offer any significant insight into Beijing's policy intentions. Back here in Korea, and a bidding war has begun among the nation's three biggest telecommunications companies to secure the best bandwidth for faster and broader data services. The total cost of the auction, which could last over a week, is expected to top $2 billion. Kwon Jang-ho reports.
Korea's three main mobile carriers, SK Telecom, KT and LG U+, are set to battle it out to secure premium operating frequency bands. The Korean carriers will be essentially renting the bandwidths, which have been up for auction in set blocks since 2011 from the government. This time, there are 5 blocks up for grabs, and the auction will take place in 2 stages. First, each block will be up for 50 rounds of bids, with minimum increments of 0.75%. If a winner is not found by then, it will be decided by a secret sealed auction. The whole process could take up to 8 days. The 2.1 GHz bandwidth, also known as the golden spectrum as it allows super-fast LTE service, is expected to attract the most attention. This block alone could end up costing the winning company almost $1 billion. SK Telecom, which previously owned the block, will be looking to secure it again, as it has already invested $750 million into network facilities for that bandwidth. Before 2011, the government used to allocate the bandwidth to mobile carriers, but it decided to put it up for auction following criticism that it was favouring certain carriers with better bandwidth. However, the auction process has also come under fire due to huge costs that have come from the bidding wars. Still, as the Korean public's appetite for mobile data continues to grow, the carriers have been left with little choice. Almost 200,000 terabytes of data are transferred on mobile devices every day in Korea, an increase of more than 600% over the last 3 years. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
Now, Korea's telecom giant KT fared well in the first quarter of the year on the back of its strong mobile and internet business. In a regulatory filing, KT reported an operating profit of $339.4 million from January to March, up 22.8% from a year ago. Its sales also grew 2.2% to $4.9 billion over the cited period. Its net profit, however, dropped 23.3% from a year earlier on increased costs and slowing fixed-line business. This is because Lotte Group decided to buy KT's car rental service unit for over $900 million last March. Samsung Group chairman Lee Kun-hee is still the richest person in Korea. According to the 2016 Forbes Korea Rich List, Lee maintained his top spot for the 8th year in a row with a net worth of $12.6 billion. Now, like most others on the list, though, he lost some of his fortune over the past year. $700 million, in fact, due to the weak global economy and Korea's slow domestic growth. Amore Pacific CEO Seok-young-bae was Korea's second richest person with $8.4 billion, followed by Lee Kun-hee's only son and Samsung Electronics vice chairman Lee Jae-yong with $6.2 billion. There were 20 self-made billionaires on the list, 40% of the total, and up from 7 a decade ago. Of them, 7 were from the tech sector, including Yellow Mobile's Lee Sang-hyuk and Coupang founder Kim Bom-sok. Now, the Korean series Descendants of the Sun is the latest hit with drama fans, but it's also having an impact on the Korean economy, generating nearly $880 million in related exports. Shin Se-min reports.
The hit Korean drama Descendants of the Sun has become an unexpected blue chip for the country's economy. Data from the Export-Import Bank of Korea shows that the direct and indirect economic effects of the TV series are estimated to be above 1 trillion won, or roughly $880 million. Exports related to the series have so far generated around $6.1 million. The state-run lender said the TV series is also likely to create $7.5 million worth of added value. The war-themed romantic series has been exported to 32 countries worldwide, including Asian nations such as China, Japan, and Taiwan, as well as Western countries such as the US, the UK, and France. Local economists believe that Korean dramas are having an influence on consumers, mostly in Asia, who are more likely to buy Korean products that appear or are related to the shows. They say the corresponding rise in demand for Korean products will fuel the country's exports, eventually stimulating the growth of the manufacturing industry. The state bank added that a 1-point rise in exports of cultural products is estimated to increase overseas shipments of related consumer products by 0.03%. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
A 7.3 magnitude earthquake hit off the coast of the South Pacific island nation of Vanuatu early on this Friday. The island, located about 1,800 kilometers northeast of Australia, is part of the seismically active Ring of Fire. The US Geological Survey said the quake struck offshore 95 kilometers southeast of the town of Santo at a depth of 10 kilometers shortly before 7 a.m. local time. There are no reports, as of yet at least, of any casualties or damage. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center said there was no imminent Pacific-wide tsunami threat from the powerful quake, but it added that some hazardous tsunami waves, some big waves, were possible within 300 kilometers of the epicenter along the coast of that country. The United States says Russia has an urgent responsibility to put pressure on the Syrian government to stop attacking civilians and abide by a partial ceasefire. US Secretary of State John Kerry was speaking after an airstrike on a hospital in a rebel-held part of Aleppo, which killed doctors and children. The United Nations has described the situation as catastrophic. The attack on the hospital killed at least 27 people, while more than 30 died in other attacks launched by Assad's forces. The UN's envoy for Syria says the cessation of hostilities agreed between rebels and government forces in late February is now hanging by a thread. Well, those are stories we've been following on this Friday afternoon here in Seoul. For more of the latest, don't forget to check it out either the website, arirang.com/news, or our smartphone application. You can just search for that by typing in Arirang TV in your usual app store. Have a great day, and if we don't see you, have a wonderful weekend. Goodbye.